What would make this even more complicated is where there's multiple folks in one home. Crafts and Cash said, my joke is why you need that many at one time.
Oh, no, 100%. So I don't see how that would be any different than being like, oh, you did make a commitment in your homosexual relationship, you can stay in that.
It's the controversial part. I didn't say it. I'm just saying this is what they say. And I would say I could see how this can be a caveat in a specific situation. I'm not advocating for this.
Ruslan.
So Cam Newton jumped out the window, said high value men are going to want multiple women, yada, 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 yada. Now, I think this is generally speaking a little bit too much Kevin Samuels, a little bit too much Rollo Tomasi.
You guys think I'm stupid. I'm not stupid, guys. I know that.
But I understand. Okay. Now, generally speaking, no. Go watch my video on this. Generally speaking, no. Polygamy, nah. In the beginning, Genesis 2:24, one man, one woman, wife, husband, not a bunch of wives, okay? In the Old Testament, when you see kings get it, they're warned about it, and when they get it, usually it's to their own detriment, to their own demise. It being a compromise and not an ideal. And then in the New Testament, we repeatedly see Ephesians chapter 5. We see Titus. We see 1 Timothy 3. It's always singular. And it goes on so much to say that deacons and elders in churches can't have multiple wives. They must be a one-woman man. Okay, so I think that was specific. Now, the only caveat to this.
Uh-oh.
And I'll link an article for this as well. Is there ever a time worldwide where it could be appropriate or it could be permissible, not ideal, but permissible for a man to have multiple wives?
Nah.
No. Okay. I'm going to reference
there he goes.
Something that's not an original thought. It's from gotquestions.org, which is a great resource on this stuff. Gotquestions.org. It basically goes out to lay out that if a man in a part of the world where polygamy is allowed, it's legal. That's not in America. Okay, so we're not talking about with the West.
Okay.
Just so we're clear, we're talking about somewhere else. If a man is in a part of the world where it is legal and then becomes converted and becomes a born-again Christian, gotquestions.org allows the caveat that as long as he can maintain the providing for his family, he doesn't have to divorce specific women. He doesn't have to pick one. He doesn't have to get with the first one. That he can continue providing for those. But if he feels convicted about it, he can.
Got it. Okay, so it's super specific.
Very specific.
It's
not
like God
context.
told me. But it's like if you're not Christian before and then you become Christian after multiple marriages all at once, you can assume the responsibility of a husband for multiple women.
Yes. And you don't have to divorce them. You don't have to, obviously don't abandon them, right? At the very least, you should keep providing them. And so
that's really weird.
It's really weird.
Yeah.
You would say that if someone in a part of the world where this was permissible and they get radically converted, born again, that he should divorce some of the wives?
Should a homosexual man divorce his husband?
I don't think we would put polygamy and homosexuality in the same category.
Really?
Because the Bible permits polygamy in a specific context, right? It's not the ideal, but it was a compromise. The Bible never compromises or allows homosexuality.
To be honest, I think polygamy is probably the weirdest one for me.
Really?
Yeah, because out of all the apologetics, it's the only one that doesn't make a lot of sense. And it seems like people are kind of just making up an apologetic as they go.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
For sure.
So it's one of the ones where I go like,
I'm just saying it's an interesting caveat
that
I didn't come up with. Got Questions, which is a rather solid reformed,
100%. 4-point
reformed website, gives that caveat. And yes, it's absolutely not the same, but
it's just so weird.
But hold on, look.
Yeah.
This is a thing in South Africa. People converting to true Christianity and actually amicably divorce. Okay, so folks are divorcing in South Africa who were polygamists. You think they have to?
I think it's weird. I think it
is weird.
Well, I mean, okay, so how do we have such a strong stance on a biblical marriage, right?
Yes.
One woman, one man.
Yes.
Yet, in some weird scenario, that's allowed to be thrown out the window. And then how do you continue to live your life reading the Bible and just reconciling this fact that I'm the exception to a lot of these verses. Like I see it as if it's supposed to be this way, it should be this way regardless. And maybe in the past, in the Old Testament, those were exceptions. Those were descriptions, not prescriptions, right? It's describing what was going on, type of thing. So,
Yeah.
cool, whatever. Keep it pushing.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is, but if the prescription is one woman, one man, and not to mention, so if it's one woman, one man, does that make two women, one man a sin? So, okay.
Wait. Yes.
Yes. Okay. So.
Well, yes.
Okay. So is sexual immorality the same across all platforms?
Well, that's assuming that
That's
assuming that you're being intimate with all of them.
Okay.
That's
So
assuming that you're being intimate with them at the same time. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a lot of assumptions there. One can want to maintain their family structures
without having sex with them.
without potentially doing that, right?
This is just my stance. Because this is also something that we talk about a lot when addressing the alphabet community, which is, look,
They don't like it when you say that. Guys, I want to make sure that you guys know about our upcoming podcast launch, October 20th. The tickets for that are pinned up at $7. And I would like to give you guys an exclusive preview. No one's seen these little previews of these conversations of some of the guests we've had, but I want to give you guys an exclusive preview so that you guys can get an idea of what to expect.
I've always thought it was nasty to not put in 2 weeks. I quit that day.
I didn't even wasn't even in the mood to sleep with these girls, but I felt like I had to.
How come none of these personalities are ever doing anything benevolent? So I think that there could be a spiritual, maybe potential demonic component that's in there that we haven't explored.
The fact that I was single until I was 40, and I knew I was never going to plan a church being a single guy. I wasn't about to set myself up.
You know, and then I remember one time my financial advisor at the time, she was like, hey, did you know you're spending more than you're making every month? And I was like, oh, for real?
And I'm supposed to, perform. This production assistant's like, hey, here's a Viagra. Take it if you want to take it. Don't if you don't. It's in your hand. It's yours.
I teamed up with Moment for the exclusive live premiere of the anticipated Bless God podcast. And the tickets for that are only $7. When you get to the main page, click the yellow Get Ticket button, scroll down to the add-ons and throw in your ticket to the after party as well as some exclusive merchandise. And I will see you there.
Ruslan.
that is a sin. So is when a man sleeps with a woman before marriage. So is when a man marries two women for marriage. So I don't see it as I got saved and now my specific once upon a time sexual sin is now not a sexual sin. I would see that as considering he's having sex with multiple women, right? He's with his wives, right? So I don't see how that would be any different than being oh, you did make a commitment in your homosexual relationship, you can stay in that. And then you know what I'm saying? I don't see how that's any different.
Because something is permissible in a specific context, right? Versus something is prescribed. Versus something that's condemned.
Yeah.
Right? So there's permissible, prescribed, condemned. That was permissible.
Yeah.
It was allowed. So let's look at this article. It's so small. Okay, I'm just gonna read this to you guys. I'll link it below. Okay. So it says most people, if a man has multiple wives and becomes a Christian, what is he supposed to do? Right? Since polygamy is frowned upon in most societies, this is not a question too many people think about, but there are still numerous places in the world where polygamy is accepted. Okay, and in Muslim countries, yada, yada, yada. Right? So most people immediately give the answer he should divorce all of his wives but one. While that seems to be an ethical solution, right?
Okay.
The situation is usually not quite that simple. For example, which wife does he keep? His first wife, his last wife, his favorite wife?
First one.
The wife that
done.
has borne him the most children, and what wife does he divorce? How do they provide for themselves? In most cultures that allow polygamy, a previously married man has very little opportunity to provide for herself. A previously married woman has little opportunity to provide for herself, and even fewer possibilities of finding a new husband. That's that real patriarchy.
So I think the happy medium is you having a financial responsibility to the woman.
We get there. Let's keep reading.
Okay.
Let's keep reading. And what happens to the children of these wives? The situation is often very complicated. This is rarely a solution. Look at God Questions with the nuance. God Questions got so much nuance, they got Zach tight right now.
Seriously.
We do not believe polygamy is something that God approves of in this era.
You guys think I'm stupid. I'm not stupid, guys.
Unless-
I know this.
No.
Okay.
However, the Bible nowhere explicitly gives a thou shalt not marry multiple wives command. Okay, so again, there's prescription.
I wish it did.
There's prescription.
Yeah.
Then there's compromise and something that's permissible, right? So it's not it's a prescription to do this, but it's not a command. That's why it was allowed, right? Unlike same-sex marriage, which is what you're describing, okay?
Makes me feel part of a cult, man.
However, the Bible nowhere explicitly gives that. In the New Testament, a polygamist is ineligible for church leadership, which we went over. 1 Timothy 3:12, Titus 1:6. But polygamy itself is not forbidden. Polygamy was not God's original intent. We went over that. But it was also something he allowed. See the examples of Jacob, David, and Solomon. The closest the Bible comes to forbidding polygamy is Deuteronomy 17, which is properly understood as God's command against a king of Israel, which I referenced that scripture. It cannot be understood as a command that no one can ever take more than one wife. So if a man has multiple wives and becomes a Christian, what is he supposed to do? If polygamy is illegal where he lives, he should do whatever is necessary to submit to the law, right? So in America, you can't do it. In the West, you can't do it, right? While still providing for his wives and children. So this is like if one of those fundamentalist Mormons got saved, right? You got to still provide for them. If polygamy is legal, but he is convicted that it is wrong, he should divorce all but one wife. But again, he must not neglect providing for all of them and their children. So that's your position, right?
Yeah.
They are his responsibility. If polygamy is legal, and this is the controversial part. I didn't say it. I'm just saying this is what they say. And I would say I could see how this can be a caveat in a specific situation. I'm not advocating for this. To be clear, this is not my position. I'm saying I understand in this context what they're saying that this could be the one caveat.
I'm politicking.
If polygamy is legal and he has no conviction against it, he can remain married to each of his wives, treating each one with love, dignity, and respect. A man who makes this decision would be barred from church leadership, but it cannot be said that he is in explicit violation of any command in Scripture. Gotquestions.org, ladies and gentlemen. You go write them an angry message. First of all, what do you guys think?
I think there's so many parallels in the Bible about marriage. Relationship with the church, a man is supposed to care for his wife the way Jesus cares for the church. I feel like, and I'm going to use the word feel strongly.
Okay. Use it. Own it, bud.
Own it.
Own it.
Is that there's so many parallels in Scripture to marriage that it feels like such a goofy thing to be able to sway on.
Okay. I'm not mad at that.
That's what it feels like. And I'm not against I'm not against the got questions. But for the person that was saying I need to present an argument, do you feel like, do you know, when you look at the got questions thing, does that give you confidence in that answer? It
gives me confidence in nuance. It gives me confidence in nuance.
Yeah, there's nuance for sure, but is that something, am I the only one that sits and hears these apologetics and goes, I feel like we're just making stuff up?
No, I don't think they're just making stuff up.
Yeah,
I think this is a real thing in real parts of the world.
Oh no.
And I think,
I'm not saying making stuff up as in making up scenarios. I'm saying making up apologetics. For things that are uncomfortable.
I don't think so. I think they gave a good nuanced answer.
Yeah,
and they said if he is not convicted, right, then he can continue. What would make this even more complicated, which seldom is this the thing, from my understanding, if you guys are in parts of the world where this is a thing, is where there's multiple folks in one home.
Yeah.
Right? So usually this is multiple homes.
Really?
Yes. Usually this is multiple homes. If you look at the documentaries, like the fundamentalist Mormons that do it in like wherever, parts of Utah or Vegas or wherever they do it in, it's usually across multiple homes. So that's different. You also got to understand that in some parts of the world, they don't have multiple homes. These folks are all together.
Yeah.
There's let's bona fide sister wives together in the same house.
That's what I kind of wasn't thinking about in the first place.
Yeah.
If you got multiple homes, it's just easier to just break off and support them.
It's one of those things of like, is consuming cannabis sinful? Generally speaking, yes.
Yeah.
Generally speaking, you shouldn't. Generally speaking, right? But there's the caveat of me with knee surgery having to pick Norco or cannabis edible.
Yep.
And some people would think I'm crazy out the window for doing that, right? But that's the caveat.
Yeah.
But even in having that conversation, I have to be very specific with the situation. So generally speaking, I don't think most folks should be consuming cannabis.
Yeah.
Right? Even though it's legal in most parts of the country, right? So I would say this is one of those things where there can be a nuanced situation where, and when I say consuming cannabis, I am not advocating for smoking anything, but for my knee surgery, I had to choose between Norco, which had me feeling weird, and or a cannabis edible for pain. Thankfully, I don't have any more pain.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So like
that makes sense. So yeah,
So
I would
it's
say
a good question.
I'm usually way more like I'll usually come with more jokes.
Yeah, you don't got no jokes on this one.
I don't got no jokes.
You got no jokes.
No, because previously, like this is actually something. You know, when people go, man, I struggle with the problem of evil.
Yes.
Or I struggle with how God would permit them to slay all the women and children. Like for me, I'm like, I'm chilling. I don't care.
Yeah.
But
you could literally use that same logic for polygamy.
Yes, probably. But I think, yeah, you could. But what I'm saying is when I think back to those times, I think back to like, oh, I don't need to know the mind of God. That was the past time. But when we start talking about like, oh, it could be okay now I just look around like, I just feel goofy. It's one of the things that makes me need, like, it makes me go back to the evidences of the resurrection. It's like one of those things where it makes you go like, am I in a cult? Are we just like Muslims? Are we just like Mormons? Are we just like? It's the only thing that mirrors.
You're so triggered.
Weirdos.
I like it.
No,
I like
that's
it.
what I'm saying.
It's interesting.
No, it's the only thing that makes me uncomfortable. It's the only thing that makes me mirror that these other religions that we go like, oh, they're so stupid, and then we're like, but you know, duh.
Respect.
Like how are you gonna be like? I don't know. Like I just feel, and maybe it's because. And then I think back to like when I was a kid, and they're like talking about, you know, oh, these are concubines. Concubines are like lots of wives. I'm like, okay. Like no one's addressing this stuff when you're young, and you know what I'm saying. But we're talking about LGBTQ, and we're talking about like that stuff is weird to me. So it's definitely more of a feeling, but it's one of those things where it's like, I'm going back to the resurrection, boy.
It's interesting. Okay, Crafts and Cash said, my joke is why you need that many at one time.
Oh no, 100%.
I generally speaking, I don't think most men are gonna be able to, you know, to live up to this, right? And
yeah, bro.
From a practical standpoint of being a father to being just a good husband, very unlikely you're going to be physically and emotionally available to multiple people like that.
And if you're talking about like the family unit and how there's no job that can replace a man's job, and there's no job that can replace a woman's job. So all the sister wives would be able to work together to make that load lighter. Laundry, cooking, all this stuff. Picking up the kids from the soccer game. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, the chat's coming for you. Zach, did you just say the one thing that separates us from the culty sex is denying polygamy? I think it's not even that close to the most important distinction.
No, it's not. No, it's not. And this is why I'm saying I feel. I'm saying it's the one thing that makes me go back, and this is me personally, that makes me go back to the evidences of the resurrection. And I think we're all allowed to struggle with something that makes them feel uncomfortable.
Just reiterating, legally staying married to multiple women is not the same as polygamy. Polygamy is sleeping with multiple people. Hope this clears stuff semantically. Excellence with the gems.
You know, now I feel there are definitely. I want to feel better about it. So hearing stuff like that, I'm like, yes, okay.
That was actually really good.
Yeah.
And they said